Now, some 2,000 taxi drivers went on strike and forced much of the city in Cape Town to down tools along with them. People couldn't get to work, businesses felt unsafe, opting to just shut down, and violence terrorized several communities. While there was permission for a protest in the city centre, what happened was well beyond the scope. How did the authorities let this happen? Well, let's get an update now from the Western Cape Transport Department. Jandré Bakker is on the line. Jandré, thank you so much for joining us. How did this problem escalate to this point? Did you know that this protest was going to start at the ranks?
Good morning, Annika. Yes, we were aware of the impending march. It was approved. It followed all the legislative processes to be approved. But we were assured once we saw the notices, etc., that it would be a peaceful march and protest. The concerns raised by the industry have been raised with us many times, with us, both us and the city of Cape Town, and it seems as if the resolutions that we reached and was not good enough for the industry, who then decided to take matters a little bit more drastically. They handed over a memorandum to us yesterday, which contained a number of issues that they want us to take further.
Were the Metro Police standing by at those ranks where those buses, for instance, were set alight from early in the morning and ready for whatever possibility could take place?
Law enforcement, both the South African Police Service as well as municipal law enforcement, were out in full force yesterday at the time when the march was supposed to start. However, when you look at these events, you plan according to your data, and sometimes these issues go beyond what your data has predicted. But also, we must not discount criminal elements that are piggybacking on these situations. We've read over the past couple of hours of opportunistic criminals that go into start stoning for unrelated matters, etc. So only blaming the industry would be unfair, as it's wider than just the industry. If we look at the industry themselves, we've got the law enforcement officers out in full force where the hotspot areas were. It ended up being a peaceful protest from that point forward. So yes, we were out in full force, both city, province, as well as South African Police Service.
Jandré, what is your response to the drivers' concerns over the cost of impoundments and permit issues?
We must remember that an impoundment doesn't just happen. You don't have a willy-nilly issuing of an impoundment. So someone had to do something where the sanction of impounding a vehicle is warranted. If you make that cost to release the vehicle again too little or too small, it doesn't deter someone from doing it again. So we must remember that there is a balance that needs to be struck. The concerns raised in the memorandum are, however, wider than just operating or the impoundments. It speaks to temporary operating licenses, and we must remember that these operating licenses also are issued by the provincial regulatory entity based on data provided by various municipalities. Because if we look at the Nsebeza Commission of Inquiry into Taxi Violence in the Western Cape, oversupply and competition for routes is one of the main reasons for killings and taxi violence in our province. So we cannot just simply issue permits and hoping to keep the peace, because by having too many permits on routes that are already overserviced, you are actually exacerbating the problem of these oversubscription. And that, for example, is what led to the closing of the B97 route, which has been closed for months now. We've also been speaking of perhaps closing certain areas in Yanga or declaring them hotspots as well, which will have severe impact on the commuters. So one of the concerns as well that was raised is, why does Golden Arrow bus service then get a permit to operate in an area on specifically that B97 route as example overnight? But we must remember that in accordance with the law, the National Land Transport Act 93 of 96, the provincial minister, or MEC, is empowered to do so in extraordinary circumstances, for example, where there is natural disasters, unrest and violence. Another issue that was raised by the industry is that they want indefinite permits. And we must remember once again that a permit is something that is based on demand. And if you just continuously have someone there, the demand may fluctuate, and then you need either more permits or you need to lessen the permits and provide permits in different areas. Initially, those permit approval time period was about 2 years. It's already extended to 7 years. So only after 7 years do you need to apply again. Another issue that was raised, they want those permits to automatically be issued once they purchase a new vehicle. And that once again raises the concern of oversubscribing on certain routes. What are we going to do from this point out? We've already issued compliance notices to the associations, telling them that they need to comply with the Code of Conduct and Standard Constitution. Otherwise, we will be taking further actions. We've started with suspension of the special regulatory process, which basically means that no new operating licenses will be issued to members of these associations until the suspension is lifted, in order to get to a point where we both work together in the same direction. We can go ahead and cancel certain operating licenses, but obviously, even though Section 79 of the National Land Transport Act allows that, that will be our last resort, because we in this for collegiality, we want to make this work. They play an important role in the public transport sector, and we value the role that they play, but it has to be done orderly and in accordance with the law.
All right, thank you. It sounds like a very complex situation that's going to be difficult to solve. Thank you, Jandré Bakker from the Western Cape's Transport Department.